Thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you today. Could you start by telling us a little about yourself and your business?
In 2009, do everything from financial planning for families and companies to 401k plans, investments, life insurance, everything.
What part of your work are you most proud of?
Getting to help people. I mean, if you're going to be in this industry, in this job, you have to like talking to people and you have to like being able to help people understand what they have going on in their lives and plan for the future.
How would you describe your business to someone my age?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Some people think that it's just a matter of picking stocks or picking investments or helping people, with their money, but it's actually a lot more than that. When you get into this business, a lot of times it comes down to family dynamics. You have to be able to help parents and grandparents, kids understand what their future is going to look like if they're able to put money away, what the retirement is going to look like, how they can plan for long-term care needs, how they can help an aging family member. It comes down a lot more to understanding people as opposed to understanding investments.
What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
My dad owned a gas station when we were growing up, and I always respected how hard he worked. Um, that everything that we had came from his hands, and being able to um, run the business and also be a very good mechanic at the same time. I just saw what it was like to be able to sort of control your own destiny. And then I had an aunt that was back then they were called stockbrokers, but I had an aunt that was a stockbroker that was in the 80s, and she gave me my first few shares of investments that I started following, and I really enjoyed it. Um, it kind of went from there.
Can you share the story of how your business idea came to life?
That one's a fun one. So I said before, there were 16 of us that worked at a bunch of different other financial institutions. Um, and then I remember this, it was the Super Bowl Sunday of 2009. Um, my partners and I had decided a few months prior to that we wanted to go open up our own firm where we all worked for ourselves. We worked as a partnership for the company. We didn't report to anybody else. We weren't beholden to any investment company, meaning we didn't have to use Merrill Lynch's products or Fidelity's products. We could do whatever was the right thing for the clients. And I remember it was a snowstorm. It was very scary. If anybody remembers what 2009 like, it was a very bad downturn in the economy. But we decided to do it. I walked into this room at our old building, looked around and said, okay, well, now what do we do? And, luckily we've been able to grow it to something. Like I said, we have almost 900 people now, which is pretty amazing.
How did the idea change from the beginning?
It was much easier when you had 16 people in a row. Now you have everything from 90 different offices across the country. There's people that are in different offices I've never even met and I've spoken to on the phone before, but you lose a lot of that interpersonal connectivity where the original 16, you know each other, you know each other's families, you know each other's history. It's a lot easier to be able to communicate with people like that as opposed to large numbers.
How long did it take before you felt ready to start?
Well, I got into this business in 1997, actually. So from 1997 until 2009, we essentially all worked for other people. So it was a little scary. It's not something, we don't receive W-2 paychecks. We don't get paid vacation. Nobody pays for our health insurance and things like that. You have to be willing to be able to go it on your own. So it's not something that you just do overnight because it's a little scary. But 1997, I had no wife, I had no kids. I was still living at home actually in 1997. So it was a lot easier. I had a lot less bills back then, and I decided that was something I always wanted to do. From seeing my dad run his business and seeing my aunt, and I figured no better time than then because I didn't have as many things to worry about. It's worked out, but it's scary up front.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days?
Finding ways to connect with people. because you in this business you don't have in any business you in any business you're going to have customers, or you're going to have clients, or you're going to have people that you need to grow your business, and they don't just come walking in your door. Even if you have a great idea, you have to find a way for people to want to do business with you, whether that's through word of mouth. Hopefully it's through referrals. You hope that it's through people that you've done a good job for, and they come back and say, hey, these people have done a nice job for me and I trust them, and you build it that way. But that first day when you're sitting there in your office and you have 0 clients, you have to figure out, how do you find number 1? And after you find number 1, how do you find number 5? And after you find number 5, how do you find number 10? It was scary.
Did the challenge almost make you want to quit?
Cry, yes. Quit, no. When you go all in, you don't really have the option to just quit and go do something else. But you have to sometimes you take a few steps back and figure out what you're doing, and readjust things going forward.
How did you overcome the challenge?
Understanding that you're doing the right thing for people, and it sounds corny, but I told somebody the other day, I said, our best day and our worst day is the same day with clients, and this sounds corny, but when you have a client that unfortunately passes away, the first thing that pops into your mind is, oh my goodness, I just lost a friend, because you tend to be close with these people. But at the same time, your brain automatically goes, did we do the planning the right way? Are their families going to be okay? Their spouses, their kids, their grandkids, are everything going to work out for them? So you start realizing that, okay, by me doing the right thing, their family's going to be better off than they would be if they didn't have me in their life. So it's the worst day because you've lost somebody that you care about. It's a good day to know that, okay, you've helped them be in a better place, hopefully going forward. And, when you unfortunately you see them at that funeral or at the thing, you realize that they're going to hopefully be okay as long as you've done the right thing for them, help them.
How did you identify your target market and make sure your idea was truly something people needed?
Everybody needs to retire. So from that standpoint, everybody needs to have something down the road. So the market part of that was the easy part. Target market, I've always told people, and this sometimes people don't believe it, but I don't particularly care if you have $10 or $10 million. It's still the money that you have. And if it's somebody that we like working with, I'd rather work with somebody that's got $10 and they're nice, and that I enjoy working with, and work with $10 million. Somebody's got $10 million and they're a jerk. So we kind of do things a little bit differently. We don't have a minimum size for a client, but we have kind of like a personality minimum. If you're not enjoyable to be around, and if we can't be open and honest with each other and talk about what really goes on in your life, then we're probably not a right fit. So we do things a little differently around here, I guess.
What makes your business different from others in the same industry?
Well, I think it's a little bit that we're kind of individually driven by each client. Meaning, if somebody walks in, it's going to be a different thing every day for each person. Meaning, if somebody comes in here, I don't mark a box off on a form and say, okay, great, you're 37 years old. Let's mark off this box. Here's what you're going to get. Because every single person's life is different. So it's more fun to be able to look at I tell people all the time, it's like we get this box of pieces, which is their financial makeup for the day. And then the fun part is, how do you move these pieces around to make the puzzle look good at the end? I mean, I'm an accountant by degree, so I kind of geek out on the fact of being able to take the numbers and move things around and say, okay, how do you make this work? So yeah, I mean, the difference is you don't ever walk in, or at least to the people in our firm around here, you don't walk in and say, okay, great, here's your stock can presentation, and here's what you're going to get. And that's not fun to me. It's more fun being able to make pieces turn into something that you think is going to work for somebody.
Was this unique, this plan, or did it develop over time?
Gosh, I don't know. I've never thought about that. I think that's just kind of the way I am. I mean, it's so maybe the uniqueness is just, I'm not sure if somebody's going to give you their money to invest for them, or their retirement or their life insurance, they should deserve to get better than just marking off a box and handing something back. So you should be able to have other people say, hey, you know what, you know, that's a lot more customized. I mean, it's funny. We actually have some people call up and ask us like, what kind of car they should buy. Which you would not normally think that has anything to do with a financial planner, or should I buy a car or lease a car? When you get into things like that, you really are becoming more of a trusted advisor to somebody as opposed to an order taker or an investment taker. They kind of rely on you to be able to help them work through different questions. I told my son the other day, we have one family that we have 27 different family members for the same family. And there's a lot of family dynamics that go into that when you go from grandparents all the way down to great grandkids in there, and you're able to sit there and the good, the bad, and the ugly that goes on in families. And when they come to you and say, hey, I need you to talk to such and such because such and such is doing this, why, whatever type of thing, you realize that's really a little out of your job purview, but you also enjoy the fact that people trust you enough to be that conduit for a family. So we do that for a lot of different families, but it's um, it's enjoyable to me. I have people that have trust in me.
How do customers react to what makes you different?
Well, we don't call anybody customers, first of all. If we have your access to your money, you should be treated more than a customer. You're a client. You're a friend. You're a partner, because we want you to work with us along the way to help us come up with some solutions. I told somebody the other day that we're think of us as being like Scott GBT. It's like, if you've got a question, just ask me. I can find stuff out for you. It's not my place to tell you things that that have to be done in your life, but to be a good resource for you, to be able to answer questions and maybe pose some questions back to you that you weren't thinking about, to be more hands-on that way. It works.
How do you stay innovative and ahead of your competitors?
These last 2 years have been very, very different. If you would have told me 2 years ago that we would be using AI to answer questions in our minds about investments or about holdings or about, world events, I would have thought you're crazy, because I didn't know what AI was. The fact that there's probably 5 or 6 times a day now, whether it's going to Copilot on our work system or it's going to ChatGPT on our phones or wherever else, that if something will pop into your mind about how do you, perfect example, everything that's going on in the world today, formulating what's going to happen when the market opens up on Monday after all the events that have happened in the world the last 2 days. You can have all these things in your mind, but if you don't have some place to go and kind of get some information, you don't know idea if you're being accurate or not. So the fact that we use AI, not necessarily, you can't ask AI, hey, what's going to be the best stock on Monday that's going to go up 20%? That's not real. But being able to formulate a game plan and say what types of stocks, what types of investments, what's going to get hurt the most about, world events, and honing your things down, because anything with AI, it doesn't give you your answer to the questions until you ask it the right questions.
What is one important decision you've made that really shaped the direction of your company?
Starting the company. It was scary. I mean, when you walk out from a place where you've been for a long time and you're used to getting benefits and, retirement plans, and somebody else making the decisions on what your offices are going to look like and who you're going to be working with, all of a sudden you walk into a building one day and it's 16 people sitting around the table going like, oh crud, now what do we do? That was a little frightening, but it worked. But
What have you done the same choice again?
100%, yes.
Do you have any role models or mentors who guided you along the way?
Yeah. I affectionately call him Boss Man, Jeff Concepcion, who was like our founding guy who kind of came to us day one and had the original idea and gathered some of us together. And most of us that were with him back then would still walk off a bridge for the guy. He's just one of the most upstanding, genuine human beings. I've seen him do such amazing things for people in this world that he never takes any credit for, never asks for. So yeah, I mean, I try to model myself the best I can after him and his family.
What is the best advice they gave you?
To treat people like people and understand that, your job only exists because people want to talk to you, people want to trust you, people want to interact with you. Nobody's so good that you can be a jerk, and people are going to want to come to you just because you have some brilliant ideas, because nobody's ideas are that brilliant. But if a family wants to deal with you because they trust you and they understand that their families are in your best interest, then that goes a long way.
Do you mentor others now?
Yeah, we have a 24-year-old that works for me. He's been with us since he was 22. He got into this business sort of in college before he even joined us, but he went about getting all of his licenses, and he knew this is something he wanted to do. And we look at him sometimes, and I laugh because he's so young, and there's so many things in this world he has no idea about yet. But you hope that you put the time and the effort into him, that he keeps growing and learning. So yeah, we do that. And then our company, we have, I don't know, probably 20, 25 interns during the year. But Tyler works specifically for me and works here in this office.
Can you share a failure or mistake that taught you a valuable lesson and how you overcame it?
I had one client leave that always sort of bothered me. And she was a unique lady. She was not always the easiest lady to deal with. She had a good heart, but she wasn't always the easiest to deal with. She literally got mad at us because we never invited her to our house for a cookout. It sounds something as silly as that, but we've gone through this whole thing explaining to her that we really are more like a family and we deal with this stuff. And she took that such to heart that then all of a sudden we hadn't invited her to the house for a cookout, which I don't normally have client cookouts at my house. So I was surprised that was why she was upset with us. But she left, and it was a strange, and it kind of always gnawed at the back of me that maybe we needed to go that little extra step for somebody like that was in a unique situation. But that one always sort of bothered me. It still bothers me.
What keeps you motivated during tough times?
Knowing that people count on you. It's one thing to run your own money because you can go through the ups and downs and you understand what's changing in the world. It's the people that don't have the background, that don't have the knowledge, that wake up in the morning and go, okay, well, I'm counting on Scott and people at his company and his firm to make sure that I'm going to be okay. And then you get the phone calls, hey, are we going to be okay? I mean, we've been through 9/11, we've been through 2008, we've been through 2022 where there've been bad markets, and clients will call up and they just need some reassurance and hope that you've done the right thing for them to understand that I don't know what's going on in the world, but tell me that my money's okay, because that's what they rely on for their retirement.
During these tough times, who did you turn to support?
Jeff sometimes, but at the same time, Jeff and Seth are my friend, my partner. But at the same time, you kind of have to. Well, I guess there's other people on my team too. So you have days where something will be kind of throwing you off a little bit, and you're able to reach out and ask some of the other people what you think, what should be changed, or is there something we can change, or are we doing things the right way?
Do you have any routines or habits that help you stay focused?
No. Every day is so different. There's no way to be able to, I'm not so set in my ways that I have to do boom, 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 because, some people want to see you in the morning, some people want to talk to you on the phone, some people want to come in. We have many clients that don't live anywhere near Cleveland. So you're on calls depending on, different time zones and stuff. So there's no way to, for me anyway, you kind of look at your schedule every morning and go, okay, here's what today's going to be.
What skills do you think every entrepreneur should develop?
Listening to people. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the most creative. You don't have to have some, in this type of industry, you don't have to have some amazing idea, but you better be able to understand what people are asking you and to help them sleep better at night.
How do you make sure your business has a positive impact on your society?
We do from a firm standpoint, we do a lot of giving back the best that we can, whether it's working on Habitat for Humanity, whether it's food drives, whether it's Christmas time we adopt. I think 15 or 20 different families as a firm over the holidays to help gifts and things like that. We try to do as many different things as we can, and then obviously when you get down to an individual basis, you try to find things that mean the most to you to give back in that way. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of us that are very lucky, and there's a lot of people out there that aren't anywhere near as lucky as us. It's hard to. Sometimes it's not that big of a step to go from being lucky to not lucky in this world.
Why is this important to you personally?
Because I have a very blessed life. I have a wonderful family. I've got a great job that I love, great friends, and being able to do things that help people. There's a lot worse things in this world you could be doing. A lot of people that are in a lot worse situations. You should be thankful every day.
Have you seen any real life examples of your impact?
Yeah. Plenty of families that would not be in the right situation, or kids or grandkids or whatever else, or to be able to say, hey, we're better off, we're safe now. Mom passed or grand. I mean, that's always a horrible situation when a parent passes away too early, and you worry about the kids and things along those lines. And then okay, they're not going to have to change schools, or they're not going to have to change houses because one of the parents is gone. So when you see that happen, you know that they're okay. When you've been doing this long enough, unfortunately, you're going to see people pass away. And it's never fun.
If you go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Maybe start earlier. Because you once you're in a job where you're working for somebody else the whole time, it becomes less and less likely for you to sit there and say, I'm going to pull the string and jump and go do it on my own, because you get comfortable. You get comfortable with somebody giving you a paycheck. You get comfortable with somebody else kind of, like I said before, picking your office, telling where you're going to go, where your building's going to be, what your address is going to be. Here's what your new phone number is. Here's what the name of the company is going to be. You just become complacent with doing that. So it's starting off earlier, and especially starting off early when you have less needs from life. I mean, it'd be a lot harder to start in this business if you had a family and you had kids and went home one day and said, guess what? No more paychecks. We're starting from scratch. I was lucky to be able to do that way back when. And take a chance. I mean, you may have a great idea. I mean, a lot of times it's worth it. I mean, I've tried a lot of other things along the way as side things that maybe didn't work out. But if you don't try, you don't find out. I told Cooper the other day, I said, if you don't take the shot, you don't make the shot. So, when you're playing basketball or anything else in this world, you don't know if you're going to fail until you actually try it.
Do you think your younger self would listen to your advice?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I think I would. I always hope so.
What moment in your life would you think that advice would help the most?
In school, I knew kind of from an early age this was something that I was going to do. I mean, I started interning when I was a senior in high school, and I worked for 7 years as an intern all through college, and that helped kind of formulate. If nothing else, it taught me how to interact with people. As an 18-year-old, when you're working in a business where you're dealing with 20 people that are maybe 20 years older than you, if you're not used to dealing with adults and talking to adults, it's hard to be an adult. So it taught me a lot. I still talk to most of those people, if not weekly. A lot of the people I worked for way back when.
What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs starting today?
If you come up with a great idea, talk to somebody about it. There's so many opportunities these days that we never had. I mean, seeing what you guys are able to come up with between, coming up with products, selling products, coming up with ideas, even ways to market it and get it out to the real world. None of that stuff existed back then. We had newspapers back then. We didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones. If you had an idea, you didn't really have a way to. It wasn't as easy to go forward with it.
What is one small step someone my age can take right now?
Research. I see you guys in your class, especially at least the kids that I know you guys talk to. It's amazing to me to hear you guys when I listen to you guys talk about the different ideas that you guys come up with and how you're always running around behind the scenes, and whether it's some of the stuff you listen to and go, okay, that's never going to work, but I'm still proud of the fact to hear you guys are thinking through, like, I have an idea. The fact that you're willing to say I have an idea and try to make it work. Once again, you don't know it's going to not work until you try it, but you also don't know if it's going to work. So if you don't try it, how do you get to know it's going to work? So it's amazing to see this generation of kids that are hustlers, and not just being willing to sit there and say, I'm going to just take one thing. It's like, no, I'm going to keep trying different things until it works.
What should young people avoid when starting out?
Complacency and not trying. It kind of seems to be a theme. But if you just sit back and say, okay, somebody's going to fix this for me, because there's a lot of kids in this generation that are just used to, especially, they're used to just being handed things. We're blessed, especially, in our part of the world, we're blessed that there's not a lot of things that go unneeded or provided for. So when you just see a kid that's, unwilling to take it to do anything for themselves because they don't need to, take a shot at things.
What is your message to young students who dream of creating something of their own?
You got to put a lot of hard work into it. You're probably going to fail once or twice. Like I said, I got my real job that I love. There's been other little quirky things I've tried on the side that have failed dramatically. I owned a racehorse once. Terrible idea. I owned a restaurant. Terrible idea. I owned a Panini's. Terrible idea. Yeah. But it was still things that you thought of along the way and said, okay, you know what? I'm going to still make a try at it. Stick to what you find the things, you try the different things that you're good at. And when you find the one, you'll know which is the one that you're good at. And then it's the best opportunity for you.
What is the first thing they should do after hearing your message?
Don't tamp down their dreams. If they've got an idea that pops up, talk to somebody about it, whether it's your friends in class, whether it's your parents, whether it's, somebody if it's something, look it up. I mean, like I said, back then we didn't have a way to look up things. It's amazing to hear you guys talk about trying things, and then next thing I know, you guys are jumping on your phones, you're jumping on your computers, and saying, A, if that exists already, B, if not, then okay, it's just something we can do, and going from there. When I was a kid, you didn't have an opportunity to do that. You didn't have a way to even look it up.
How can they stay confident after, even when things are hard?
Good questions, Elias. You guys are resilient. It's once again, it's this generation. I mean, enough of you guys I've seen getting knocked down, whether it's in sports or whether it's not getting a great grade. Being able to turn around and say, okay, well, great. We're going to work on that. We're going to fix it. We're going to take another shot. We're going to do it again, and realizing that okay, it's not the end of the world, and just keep moving forward.
Anything you'd like to add on before we end?
No. Sorry.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview you today. Hope you have a great day.
Anything for you, Elias.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy.